So yesterday we discussed about what is the difference between var, let, and constant. There are three ways to declare the variables: var, let, and constant. So what is the difference between var, let, and constant? We have seen practically each and every point. So scope is functional scope for the var. Let is blocked scope and constant is also blocked scope. Redeclaration is possible in the var, and in case of let and constant, redeclaration is not allowed. Reassignment, it is possible in var and let. Constant, it is not allowed. See, var, it is the old concept, and let and constant they have introduced in the latest version of the JavaScript. Hoisting, it is permitted in the var. Let and constant, that is also allowed, but the thing is you can't access it because those are all present under the temporal dead zone area. From that area, you can't access it. From that area, you can't access it. Okay. So this is what we have seen. See, what are all the different types of data types are available in Typescript? Different data types. Different data types in TypeScript or JavaScript. Of course, in TypeScript, we have some extra special kind of data types also available. Okay, so normally we have primitive data types. One is primitive data type, and the second thing is non-primitive data types. One is primitive, and the second thing is non-primitive. So we'll also call it as reference data type. We'll also call it as reference data type. And there is another special kind of data type, like special data type. Okay. So these special data types are allowed only in the TypeScript. It is not allowed in the JavaScript. So this is the extra thing which we have in the TypeScript. So primitive and non-primitive, these two are common for both JavaScript and the TypeScript. There is some extra special kind of data types are available. Okay. See, what are all the primitive data types? What is meant by primitive data type? What is meant by primitive data type? See, primitive data types means it is going to store a single value. It is going to store a single value. Okay. See, what are all the primitive data types? What are all the primitive data types? What are all the primitive data types? One is
String and number.
Next, as usually, Boolean, string, null, there is something like undefined, null, undefined. There is something like symbol.
Here.
And there is one more type called big int. So these are all the primitive data types. So null, undefined. Null, undefined, there is something like symbol also. So the same kind of data types also present in the JavaScript. Okay, right. See, what is meant by primitive data type? Primitive data type means these store a single or simple values. It stores single or simple value. It is going to store single or simple value. Example, you have seen, or we are saying, like, let's say, let age is equal to number. Here I just mentioned 30. Okay. So next, username is equal to string. Is login boolean. So like this, these are all the primitive data types. Primitive data types means it is going to store single value or simple value. Okay, right. So if you want to get that data type, what type it is, what type it is, if you want to get it, so let me create a new file name for data types dot fields. Okay, so here age is equal to number, username is equal to string type, is login, something like boolean. So all these are all the primitive data types. Okay, and okay, then what about like null? What about like null? Null. Let, you can mention let values is of what type? Null type. So here you can mention the value is also null. So this is one of the interview question. What is the difference between null and undefined? Okay. Now see, I want to get the data type of this null. This null is of null type. So there is a special kind of data type called null, and which is a storing null. Null means nothing. So what is the data type of null? So how to get it? Console dot log. So here you can use type of values. Here you can use type of values. NPX, PSX, variables. Reference access in here you are given. What is a program? What is a file name? Here. See, remember, these points are very, very important for the interview problem. So the data type is comes under object. For number, string, boolean, null is the type internally it contains as the object. Okay. Next, there is something like undefined. You are declaring a variable, but you are not assigning a value to the variable. Default what it takes? Default what it takes?
Undefined.
Undefined. Okay. So here, let's say, let x is undefined. Let x is undefined. And if you are assigning like undefined, what is the data type? What is the type? Console.log type of x. Let's see. For the null is comes under object type. Undefined is comes under undefined. Okay, right. Okay, so there is something like a special sign. There is okay. Actually, we never used let y is symbol type is equal to something like this. There is a special thing. Symbol. Actually, I never use it. Returns a new unique symbol value. Let us see. Console.log. I'm trying to print y. And at the same time, I'm trying to print the data type also. Comma, type of. I'm trying to print y value and I'm trying to print the data type. What is the type? So the value is a symbol and it comes under symbol. For our Playwright point of view, we never going to use this. Okay. Just for our interview point of view, we are trying to learn it. Okay. So here, normally if you take or if you're trying to compare with other programming languages like int, float, double, big int, small int, long, like this, you are using different kind of data types. But those programming languages, they don't support like null, undefined, and this kind of symbols. So those are all existing in the JavaScript and Typescript. Null, undefined, and then symbol. These three comes under primitive data types, or we can call it as primary data. They store single value or sample values. Okay, right. Then what about like non-primitive data types? We will also call it as reference data types. We'll also call it as reference data types. Reference data types. So we will call it as non-primitive. Non-primitive. So what are all the reference data types? non-reference, non-primitive means here you are going to store multiple values. Some of the guys, they call it as advanced data types. Reference data types or non-primitive data types, or some of the guys, they call it as advanced data types. So what are all the examples of the non-primitive data types? Like the first one is array. The first one is array. Let's go here. Non-primitive, non-primitive, or we can say reference data type or what do you call advanced data type. So example one is array. We are trying to work with arrays very frequently in the Playwright program. Next, there is something like object. We are also working with object. Right now, in the playwright.config.ts, everything you are representing in the form of key and value combination. So where you are specifying all the key and value combinations under the object. Object means it is a kind of like advanced data type, which is a storing in the form of what? Key and value combination. Okay. Now, even whenever you try to customize the script, customize the command, there you are modifying under the script section under the package.json. So that the scripts, it is also like object. So object, which is a storing in the form of key and value type. Okay. Next, there is one more special kind of data type called tuple. There is one more special kind of data type called tuple. It is also similar to array only. Right. Next, there is another kind of data type called in. There is another kind of data type called in. So this enum concept we are trying to maintain in our framework, especially whenever you want to maintain some different type of constants. If you want to maintain collection of the constant as the single unit, that time we are trying to use this enum concept. Okay, that we will see how to use this enum and what is the use of it. Okay, so these are all the like non-primitive data types or reference data types or advanced data types. Array, object, tuple, enum, like this. Okay. See how you are going to represent this enum. What is the syntax? So anyway, we will discuss the array concepts, strings, all those things in detail, but right now we will see array. See here, let numbers. Let numbers. Let us do it. Let us play.
Speak a bit louder.
Hello?
Yeah, now audible.
Okay. So let us say I'm trying to create a fruits. This fruits of what type? String array type. So here I'm writing this. The fruits is of what type? Array type. Of which data? String. That means it is going to collect collection of strings. So how to represent the array values? In JavaScript and TypeScript, to represent values, here you are going to use square brackets. Here you are using square brackets. So these are all the fruit values like mango. See here it is a string type. That's why you need to put it in the string form. So like this. So this is array. So how to represent array? This array name and of what type? String array type. And you are trying to collect the values of the array in the square bracket like this. This is the representation of the array. Okay. So let's say if I want to store the object, if I want to create the object. So how would you create an object? How would you create an object? Let's say here I'm creating an object name like this. Person. This is my object name. This person is collecting the values in the form of key and value. Or the object, it is storing the information in the form of key and value. So this is my object name, person. And after providing object name with column, you have to provide within the curly braces. The representation of the object is within the curly braces. That's why even in the package.json also, the scripts column within the curly braces, you are going to specify because that is an object. So here, the object, you are taking care, like name is equal to, let's say, 20. The key is name and the value is 20. Let's say age, something like here I'm using simple. So like this. Okay. So to represent the format, what you are going to do is, or you can also specify person colon. Here also you can specify the name is of what type? Name is of what type? String type. So here also you can write like this. Name is equal to string, comma. Age is equal to something like name. Okay. So this is the syntax. So there was specifically. Perfect. So to make it more simple, this is for your understanding point of view, I have written like this. So my object name is person. In that person, what are all the attributes you are collecting? Name and age. The name is of what type? String type. Age is of what type? Number type. So this is the object syntax. So according to this syntax, I am providing the values here. So name is equal to string format. So this is Chandu, age is equal to that. So we are trying to work with object type also very frequently in our Playwright. We are going to maintain the test data in the form of JSON files. That JSON file is also represented in the form of this key and value combination. Okay. So this is about object. This is about object. Then what about like tuple? What about like tuple? So tuple is also similar to array only, but the syntax is going to be fixed. You cannot change the values. Okay. So let's say here, I'm giving an example for the tuple. So, but each and every topic we will talk about in detail. Okay. Tuple. So how do you represent this tuple? Let's say let user is equal to, let's say user. This, let's say this user. This user is a tuple type. Here we are providing one is string type and then number type. So according to this syntax only, you need to provide the values also. You cannot bring number first and then string later. Like this, you cannot do it. But those kind of things and all that you can take it in the array. But in case of tuple, you have to follow the rules. According to the syntax, you have to provide the values. If it is a string, you have to provide the string one. So in case of array, you can alternate. You can do the alternative changes in. But in case of tuple, you have to follow the same thing. Right? Let's say here, I'm just doing something like train, something like. Suppose if you are trying to do changes 30 comma 20, immediately you are getting the compilation issue. The number is not assignable to a type string. The number is not assignable to a type string. Okay. So according to this syntax, you have to give like this. So this is the tuple syntax. Then what about like enum? Enum. What is the enum syntax? Let's say here I'm trying to use a keyword called enum. Let's say here I'm using row. I'm specifying the row. In that row, we are specifying different kind of roles like admin, next user, like this. See, in your application point of view, while working with banking sector application, you may have different kind of users. Like one is a saving account user, credit card user, loan account user, and then home loan account user. Like you are trying to maintain n number of roles or n number of users. So if you are trying to keep all those things with the different variables, the readability of the program is going to be decreased. So now what you can do is you can create one kind of users of type enum type. You can have all the different kind of enums in one place. From there, you can simply access it. So this way, you can maintain the code very easy, man. In tomorrow, if you're trying to add any kind of new user, simply you will go to that enum and then you will add a new user, or if you want to delete it, you can delete. That means you are taking care in the single place. And from there, you can access very easily. This way, the readability of the program is also improving. Okay. So this concept also we will try to use in our framework implementation. So the tuple, enum, array, object, all these are all the advanced data types or reference data types, or you can say non-primitive data. So all these advanced data types are collecting multiple values. Okay, right. Okay. There is a third one. There is a third one is special kind of data types. What are all these special kind of data types are available? See, these special kind of data types are available only in the TypeScript, not in the JavaScript. Okay, right. So what are all these special data types? We have any. There is a data type called any. There is a data type called unknown. There is a data type called void. There is a special data type called never. See, we will not worry about those kind of data types in our Playwright programming. This kind of questions, suppose if a person who is doing like a kind of typical guy, he will show his attitude and then he will ask this type of questions. Okay, these are all the special kind of data types which are all existing in the TypeScript. Right. So what is this any? What is any? Say any means it can store any time. 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 Okay. Example. Let's say here I have given let data is of any. That means I am specifying any. That means this data variable can store any kind of data. It can store string, it can store boolean, it can store number or anything. Let's say here I have stored hello. Later I'm trying to modify data is equal to later data is equal to 10. So it can accept any kind of value. It can store any time. Then what about like function? Sorry, what about like void? See, this void we are trying to use in our normal programming language like C, C++, Java, and all these things. Void means function returns nothing. It is not going to return anything. It's nothing. Not even space also. Not even space also. The function returns nothing. So here you are going to specify like this. Let's say function. Let's say here I am implementing like let's say function something like log. And here I'm just specifying the data type void. See, after colon, whatever you are specifying, that is called return type. That is called return type. Now, if you are observing the syntaxes of all the Playwright methods, after, let's say if you take like a go-to method or like a locator method, if you take like locator method, the locator method inside it is asking some different kind of options. And at the end, how it is going to show? Colon, promise of some response like this, right? So that means how they are implementing, this is the function name, colon, and then this is the return. That means what is the value it is going to return after method gets it. So this is, so this log function after executed, it returns nothing. Void means nothing. So here just in this print console.log here. See, if I want to execute this function, what shall I do? This is the function. If I want to execute this function, what shall I do? If I want to utilize this function,
Call that function.
You should call that function. So how do you call?
Log.
That's it. Because here it is not asking any parameters. So you should call this. That's it. So here, let's go. So this is the return. This is the return. So we will discuss. So how to, we can have different kind of return types in it. That depends upon the function what you are writing. According to the functionality, you can return. I mean, it is going to return at different values. Right now, in this case, void. If I say void means it is not going to return anything. Right. Next, there is something like unknown. There is something like unknown. So what is this unknown? What is this unknown? It's a safer version of the, it is a safer version of the any. It is a safer version of the any. See, any means it can store any type. So first you are storing string type, later you are going to store number, you can store array type, you can store tuple type, you can store object type. There is no restriction on that. Then what about like unknown? What about like unknown? Unknown, it is the safer version of any. That means unknown means we don't know the type of value at. I don't know what I'm going to provide. So in that case, instead of providing any, you can keep unknown. Unknown means we don't know the type of value at. I don't know which value I'm going to provide. I'm still in the dilemma, which I'm going to provide. So if you are taking any, you can provide anything under. So TypeScript will force you to check that type before using it. In case of any, it is not going to check the data type. But in case of unknown, if you are specifying unknown, before providing the value, it is going to check the type. So that's why it is more safer than any other. That's why you can say it is the safest version of the any. Let's say if you are giving like value is equal to unknown type. Example, let value is unknown. Here I am giving hello. So what happened behind? Here the TypeScript knows, okay, value existing, but the type is not known. But the type is not known. Okay. One second. So here I am giving let value is unknown type, and here I have given hello. Problem with this approach is, let's say, you know that you have given string type. Console.log. Here I'm just writing like value dot to uppercase. If I'm writing like this, TypeScript immediately gives me error. Why? Right now, you have mentioned string dot to uppercase. This method you are applying on this string. But instead of that, what you specify? Unknown. So if you are specifying unknown, what would happen? Still, the TypeScript does not know what type it is. Still, the TypeScript does not know what type it is. That means I don't know if this is a string or not. So that's why if you want to solve this problem, how people are writing is, before writing this statement, here I'm writing a condition. If type of value is equal to string, type of value is equal to string. Type of value is equal to string. Then you can write this. So like this. So he actually is. Now this is a perfect. Earlier, why it is giving error? Simply on the string, you are trying to make it as uppercases. But you specified unknown. You specified unknown. So whenever you try to use unknown kind of things, until it knows the data type, you can't access the values directly. That means you cannot perform actions on that variable. So now, okay, value is of what type? String type. Now I can perform this action. Now it is printing. But if you take like any, whenever you try to use any, there are no restrictions. Just like that, you can use it. First time you can give hello, second you can give what? Number, you can give array type, you can give tuple. There is no restriction on it. There is no rule for the array. But if you are specifying unknown, based on the type, if you know it, then it is trying to perform the actions and all. So this is more type safety when comparing with NAM. So this type of concepts, you are not going to use it in the Playwright point of view, but for the subject point of view and interview point of view, it is very, very important. What is the difference between any and unknown? Any means it can store any type. There is no restriction in that. But unknown, it is the safer version of the any. That means until it knows the particular type, you can't access that particular variable. So here unknown is equal to, if I'm giving like 1. So now if I want to access the particular value variable, if I want to perform any if you want to perform any operations on that particular variable, so until the type is known, then only you can perform this action. Okay, let's say here I have given like 1, 2, 3. So now will it work? It won't work. Why? Because this 1, 2, 3 you have given is the number, but here you are checking the condition. You are checking the condition is a string. So now here you are going to write else if type of value is equal to number. So put it in the double quotes. Console.log. Here value into 20, something like this. So this time it is checking this value is 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is fine. But until the data type knows, then only it is trying to perform the action. Simply I can't access the variable. Why? Because for the TypeScript point of view, it does not know what type it is. You know that, but at the time of execution, for TypeScript does not know. So here, let's say value is equal to hello. 3. Let us see what is the output. Value is equal to 1, 2, 3. Value is equal to 3. Now in this case, which condition it is triggering? What is the latest value of the value?
Prem.
Prem. So this prem is of what type? String type. So that's why this condition is checking. So until it knows that data type, if it is matching, then it is trying to perform this condition. So when you are going to use unknown, I don't know which one I am trying to delete. So this is more safest way when comparing with any other. When you are using any, there is no restrictions on that. There is no rule. You can accept anything. But whenever you try to use unknown, until it knows the data type, then only you can access the variable. Okay. If it is a string, okay, I need to get. If it is a string, then go and access it. Until it knows whether it, until it knows the, okay, this is a string bundle, so it won't access. So that's why it is the safest version of the enum. So first we checked the type in case of unknown. Then what about like never? What about like never? Even for the playwright point of view, we are not going to use such kind of things and all. But when you are going to use never, see, hmm, never means nothing will happen. Never means nothing will happen. That means never means the function will never return anything. It is not going to return anything. I mean, usually this never you are applying it. Let's say whenever the function throwing an error or a function running in the infinite time. So that time, this type of concept will be applied. So what is this never? Never means nothing will happen. So this never means the function will never return anything. It is never return anything. Example, let's say I'm writing one simple function like
నోడ్ మాడ్యూల్స్ వచ్చాయి కదా ఆయనకి ఎలాగొచ్చాయి అనేది ఎట్లా చెప్పు
show error. Okay, so here you can mention like
ఆ
never.
ఫోల్డర్ లో అన్ని
Chandana, madam. Never. So here I'm specifying. So here throw error. So don't worry about all those things. Throw new error. So here stop execution. Stop execution. So what it is doing? This function stops with an error. Let's say so what happened? Whenever you are writing it, never means a value. It is, I mean, that function never returns anything. So how it is executed? How it is executed? See, you have written show error or show me message something, and the return type you mentioned as name. Inside you have written one statement. This function stops with an error, so it never returns a value. So that means Whenever this function is going to execute, it is not going to return anything. Immediately it stops program also. Immediately it stops program. So when you are going to use this never means a function throws an error or maybe something like, okay, or let us do, I'll try to take another function. And calling this function. Actually, this is infinite loop because in the while loop, you mentioned condition is always true. Whenever this condition always true, this statement is going to be infinite. Let us see that. Let's keep on going. That means this program, this loop is not going to return any value. So this loop never stops. So it never returns anything. See, ultimately, you have implemented one function. From the function, I want to get a value. But if you are giving like never under, it is not going to return any value from the function. Never means no value will ever come back. So what is the difference between any and never? This is again one of the interview questions. Any means anything allowed. Never means nothing ever returns. So this concept you are applying for the functions. Never is applying for the functions. So it is not returns. I mean, nothing ever returns. When you are going to apply this any time, when I don't know what is the type under, that time you can use this any. When you will apply this never function, it never finishes. Like example, just now we have seen a kind of like infinite loop, something like this. It never finishes. What is the rule for the NA? There is no rule. You can provide any type of value. There is no rule. Then what is the rule for the never? You are trying to implement a function, but for that function, that is impossible to return. That is impossible. That function never returns. In that case, you can use never. So that means you are executing a function. That function returns something like that function returns error. So in that case, you can implement this never because it is not going to return any value under. It returns error. So whenever it returns error, it stops the execution. Now see, if you observe it, if you observe it, where stops execution. After stopping execution, though I have n number of lines of code, but it is not continue to execute other statements. It stops execution. Error, you are getting stops execution. That's it. And after that, it is not executing other things. See, after that, I have written console.log hello. That is also not executed. It stops execution. See, you are returning through new error, stops it is just printing. This is the error message. Whenever you are getting this error message, you are stopping because this function is not going to return any value. So that's why I have mentioned this. Okay. So these are all the some different kind of data types which is allowed in the TypeScript. So any means anything allowed. Never means nothing ever written. Okay. Okay. So you have written show error colon never, and after that you have implemented throw new errors. So what happens when it runs? When this function is called, it will immediately stops the program and show an error message. And after that, you have written console.log hello something. Something went wrong because immediately it stops the execution. Inside a throw new error, whatever written the message, that message it is showing that. And after that, console.log will not execute because the program stops when the error happens. Why the return type is never? Normally, a function returns something. Normally, a function returns something, either void or number or string or some array, any type. But in case of show error, it is throwing an error. So it never returns anywhere. It is throwing an error message. It is not going to return any value. So that's why you are specifying never. So TypeScript uses never to say this function will never return a value. Example, in simple example, while working with our real life. In the factory, when the alarm triggers, everyone stop working. People leave the building. That means people leave the factory. Normal work never continues. Okay, the same idea. The same idea. So you are implementing show error message. Suddenly error happens. Program stops. That means it is not going to return. It is never it is going to return the value. So program start. You are calling the show error message. Error throw. It stops execution. That's it. Program stops. So these are all the different kind of data types. This is the first time I am taking to the this class, especially data types class for this batching. I need to upload this video session to the YouTube because I never explained to my previous batches this concept. I need to upload. Any doubts?
So basically it is stopping because as we have mentioned, as throw new error sentence, right?
Never means it is anyway, it is not going to return any value. Because
Yes.
this code. So never means it is not going to return any value, including void also. So suddenly the program stops. If a program stops, what it is going to do? Nothing, right? So that's why it is null.
So it doesn't. No, can you please go to that script once? After the 57 line, if we write something some value like console log, so will it print
It's not
at
the thing,
58
right?
line?
It stops execution.
No, inside the function itself.
Huh?
Inside the function itself.
Inside,
When
inside the function
the
also.
show error is there, right? In this method itself, the method above line number 59 itself, it got over, bro. Like
See,
that method itself stopped the execution part actually, so it won't
statement
trigger
itself
that.
like disabled.
Not inside the function, right? So console won't
See, it is locking. So the code actions prefer to click. See, it's stopping.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
See, after this statement, you have written one more statement, but the statement is disabled. That means the line number 57 itself, it stops the execution. Because this function is not going to return anything, because it is going to throw error. If it is throwing error, then what is the point to implement other things? Even if you write it, it stops execution error because it returns error object. Whenever it's showing the error object, immediately it stops the execution.
Okay, got it.
Now see, we have implemented this function, but is it allowed? It is not allowed to call this function also. Yes or no? That's it. Because this error object is stopping the program. And after that, if you write n number of lines of code also, then there is no use of it. That is all. But here, okay, the thing is, here we are trying to understand the never. Never means, anyway, it stops the execution. After that, there is no user. So if it is not returning any value, there is no chance of return any value because it's showing the error, then in that case, having the never type. So you will have this never type. Some of the typical interview persons like, can you give me an example of the never? So that time you can explain this plugin. Or you can explain this plugin. It is keep on going for the infinite loop. It never return any value. So that's why you are going to keep this in. Never means there is no chance of getting the value from the function. Sorry. And see, from next Monday, we will start early morning 5:30, that generative AI. So we are starting with Python programming, which is